always be the one you wanna call when it's cold outside.
You know, I snapped and decided to give this air-cooled engine a second chance, because there are some issues I would like to sort out, but it's not because we want to keep it in this car forever. On the contrary, we have already bought a new engine, and it's going to be installed after we finish the body work. But let's pay tribute to this old V4 guy and try to make it better for its future owner. As you remember, it was in extremely bad shape when we bought the car, but I managed to completely rebuild the entire short block, crankshaft, connecting rods, pistons, cylinders. The only things left almost untouched are the cylinder heads, and I can't sleep well knowing I skipped this important part of the engine. Both of them, there are two banks after all. So let's rebuild the heads and see how this engine runs. But it led to another common problem, the extremely weak head studs. And for good reason, the block is made of magnesium alloy, it's super light and not very strong. The stock studs have 10mm threads, which aren't enough to hold the cylinder heads with modern fuel and an increased compression ratio. When you try to torque them to spec, they just pull out of the block, threads and all. But there were already repair-sized 12mm studs installed here by one of the previous owners, and some of them pulled out of the block while I was removing the heads. I snapped again and decided to eliminate this issue once and for all, but the way I did it is genuinely embarrassing. I decided it would be a good idea to weld washers to the stud ends inside the block so they couldn't be pulled out, but there are ones that are inaccessible from the bottom, so I welded those to the adjacent studs with metal plates. I just wanted to tie the studs together so they would form a rigid structure and wouldn't get pulled out one by one. Then I carried on in a daze. The threads on the repair-sized studs were really low quality, so I cut those studs in half and welded the original ones on top. I also secured a pair of studs at the end of the engine to the block ribs. Sounds crazy, right? Then I felt a little better and tackled the heads. I checked the valve stem play and it was too loose. I bought new valve guides of the same type, heated up the heads and knocked the old guides out. A 2-minute task. After that, I gave the heads a thorough clean and pressed the new guides in, after heating the heads up again first, of course. As I said, the block is made of magnesium, so bad threads are a common problem for it. I repaired one on the front of the engine with a handmade threaded insert, which I screwed in with red Loctite. Another issue to address. The clutch disc was a little oily even though I had cleaned it before the previous assembly, just not thoroughly enough. Gave it another clean. Oh, I can't price our cherry picker enough, it helps us a ton. It's about time to install an oil filter, which is why we came up with this intricate system in the oil pan. The oil pump will be drawing clean oil, which is good. These are spy shots from a machine shop that works specifically on cylinder heads. The valve seats in these heads are extremely tough, but this Rottler machine handled them really well. The valves are in good condition, so they need just a little love, cleaning and grinding the faces to make them straight. Easy as pie. At this point, I would even say the heads got more love than their other engine parts. Let's grind some valves. The process is extremely straightforward. Put a bead of grinding paste on the valve face, being careful not to get it on the stem or abrasive particles will stay in the guides forever. The next step is grinding. I used a drill for it, but then I realized it could have been done by hand. 8 valves wouldn't take much time, it's not a Bugatti. The grinding is done when you see a solid matte line all around the face. After a thorough cleaning, I reassembled them with a bit of grease, because we can't leave it bone dry and wait for the engine to spit some oil there on first start. Now I'm putting them back together, fitting the valve keepers with this post-apocalyptic handmade tool. I came up with a little trick. Installing the heads with these springs, rubbers and washers is a nightmare, so this time I tied them with a thin wire that I will cut after installation. This way it's harder to tear the rubber seals. And now the most interesting part of the movie, the moment I had my epiphany. The first attempt at torquing the heads showed me why welding isn't the best way to join studs. They started to split in half at the weld spots. But how do I handle this? The studs are intricately welded together, and those hard-to-reach washers I welded inside the block. That's the moment I realized the evening wasn't going to be relaxing. I had made so much extra work for myself that I lost my motivation. I wanted some radical solutions, and I definitely succeeded. Oh crap. I cut away the mess and started drilling out the remnants of the studs. It was a meticulous process, please don't try this at home. Okay, at some point I undid everything and was ready to switch on engineer mode in my head. After I dug out the welded washers from inside, I took a 14mm drill bit and started drilling new holes for some genuinely big threaded inserts. This was my final word. The holes were ready for a 16mm tap, and after one test cut, I was confident this strategy was right. These moves made me feel absolutely ripped. My muscles got way bigger and stronger by the time I finished tapping. A shiny magnesium thread was blinding my exhausted eyes. The threaded inserts were made out of this 16mm stud. I just cut it into pieces and drilled the holes. My made out of scrap drill press helped me out again. Then I ran the first and second taps through them to clean up the threads. To hold the inserts in the vise, I came up with this: a nut cut in half grips the insert without damaging the thread. After that, the stock 10mm studs were ready to be screwed into the inserts with a bit of red thread locker. And these modified studs were screwed into the block with a 2-part steel-filled epoxy. This way I can rest assured that even if the wall block shatters to pieces, the studs will stay put and hold the heads firmly. During the next assembly, I kept improvising and used zip ties to compress the springs. Worked like a charm. I also welded together these nuts to sit on the outer side of the heads. The stock ones didn't inspire confidence. The final tightening of the head nuts, and now we can finally see the results. I temporarily hung the oil filter here like a Christmas ornament and tested it. You know, the engine runs really well, but the main testing is driving it. As I said in previous episodes, the gears are very short. How I wish this gearbox had a 5th gear. And you simply can't drive around without a handbrake. Just use it like this. The test drive showed no issues. The engine ran as expected, no surprises at all. I think this is a logical ending for this engine in this car. To be honest, it's been sold by now. The next owner watched all the videos about it, and I hope it will serve him for a really long time. In my opinion, this old engine is really hard to predict. There are almost no quality parts for it, and we don't have all the tools and machines in our garage to ensure a proper rebuild with precise tolerances, so the outcome will always be imperfect. It also has an open design with 2 banks of cylinders and a magnesium block, which makes it a bit flexy and means it handles loads worse than a simple inline 4. So yes, it looks cool and vintage, but it has some serious drawbacks. That said, it's a great choice to build a custom bike around this air-cooled beauty. You get an authentic look and a unique sound. That's why we built this guy in previous episodes. There are new horizons ahead. As you can see, the bodywork is in full swing, and I think we will end up with a nice car. Well, that's the way the piston turns.